Welcome to Monster Chats, presented by Monster VoIP, where we share the tools, methods, and best practices that business leaders use to build new connections, strengthen relationships, and impact sales in organizations of all shapes and sizes. If you have any questions that come up during today's episode, please text them to 424-378-6966. Please welcome the founder of Monster VoIP, your host, Colin Mitchell.
All right. On today's episode, we're going to be talking with Jake Dunlap of Skaled. Jake and I are going to be talking about aligning sales and marketing organizations to increase sales productivity 10 to 20%, eliminating distractions and unnecessary meetings in sales and marketing orgs, and developing a personal branding strategy for success. My name is Colin Mitchell. I am the host of Monster Chats and the founder of Monster VoIP. Jake Dunlap is the founder and CEO of Skaled Consulting and recognized sales leader and B2B sales and marketing thought leader. Jake and the Skaled team help executives around the world accelerate and scale business growth with data-backed sales solutions and a sustainable customer framework. Along with his list of enterprise clients, Skaled has amazed a few short years the New York Jets, LinkedIn, Insightly, ADP, Microsoft, and a majority of Skaled clients are startups and mid-level businesses looking to accelerate growth and a scalable and sustainable path forward. Jake, thanks so much for joining us on the show.
I love it. And yes, we amaze all of our clients. That is 100% correct.
All right. Awesome. Hey, tell us, before we dig in here, just tell us your story, kind of how you got started and where you're from and just, how you got to where you're at now.
Yeah, sure, man. So, look, my story is I grew up in the Midwest. I was born in a 900-person town in Iowa. Grew up in Kansas City, though. So big Chiefs and Royals fan. It's been a good last 5 years for us. So got into sales, went to college in Missouri, got into sales in college doing telemarketing. So I sold MCI WorldCom for all of you out there. I sold vacation packages, and then, I really enjoyed sports, right? And so wanted to get into sports. So I was very fortunate. My first job out of college, I got a job in Major League Baseball with the Tampa Bay Rays in sales. Was in sports sales between Tampa and Phoenix for about 2.5 years, then got into tech with a company called Career Builder. So really, I grew up in sales during kind of our last meltdown, right? So I was at Career Builder, a job site, the largest job site in the U.S. at the time, from 2007 through 2010. Ooh. So I ran the number one team for 2 years in a row in inside sales, so out of 25 leaders. And from that, parlayed that into taking over as a vice president of sales at Glassdoor, built out the sales organization there, then moved to a startup in New York and did something very, very similar. From that, what I had seen enough of from being a VP of sales in the startup world is that, scaling requires very different challenges at each step along the way. And that organizations foundationally need, the sales organization needs what marketing already has, which is an agency approach almost, where you bring in experts at each step as opposed to trying to hire full-time people, always thinking that they're going to magically figure it out. And so I started Skaled in 2013. Fast forward to today, we've worked with thousands of, Fortune 100 companies, growth stage technology companies, helping them, as you stated, to optimize different components of their marketing and revenue strategy. And so, for me, it's a passion for what's next, what's going to happen next around marketing and sales. What does our back to market strategy look like for a lot of these organizations? And so look forward to chopping it up with you a little bit and talking about, where we go from here.
Yeah. Awesome. And so, I think I read a post you put out there today on LinkedIn. I know you're a huge component of LinkedIn. Yeah. That you actually, right, because you started in the days where it's pounding the phones, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you actually had a client who didn't use the phone at all and outperformed everybody else.
Zero.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, look, my world, and this is what I had to manage teams do, because my boss's boss said we had to. Like when I was in sales, for 3 years of my time at Career Builder, my teams had to make 100 dials a day and 2.5 hours of talk time every single day. and close their own deals and manage their own accounts, right? So it's like, I had to walk the snow barefoot for 10 miles. But the point is, but it made sense, right? Like email was just coming into vogue as like a main strategy. LinkedIn didn't even really exist. I mean, it existed, but it was a job site. So, it's all about where attention is, right? And it's all about where people are paying attention. And that now today is LinkedIn, right? If you're in B2B in particular, companies should be spending, again, with a lot of our clients, 50% of their outbound efforts around LinkedIn nurturing. And it's a different type of outbound. And I think that's what's really a lot of marketing and sales leaders are struggling with. Like, what do you mean it's not a direct call to action starting on the first touch point? It's like, no, you connect with them and then you comment on a couple posts. And then when it's relevant, then you DM them. Right. And so there's just new plays that the new world and buyers have already been there and they've been asking for this for the last year and a half. And it's just now as marketers and sales organizations, we've got to start to catch up. And so, we've got a client, multiple clients where one of the reps that I know the post you're referring to, one of the reps literally made 0 cold calls, 0 cold emails, set 32 meetings in April, right? Which of course is like, and guess what? They sell a real estate tech. This guy sells a real estate technology, okay, which in an industry that's not doing the hottest right at this time. And he's posting. The key thing for a lot of people on LinkedIn, you cannot be successful if you're not putting out content. Nobody, you've got to position yourself as like, I at least know what I'm talking about in my industry. So, that's what these guys do. We've got a client in an NFL team that, they've got in their sales org, guy said 20 meetings on LinkedIn just alone. In April, they don't even know if they don't even know when the season's starting. So the opportunity is there, but it's just a different play. And I think that's what so many marketing and sales organizations are struggling with. They're like, well, what do you mean I'm not trying to get him on a backlink to my blog post or a download an ebook? It's like, well, that's not what people are doing on social media. That's not how you interact. So no, you need to come up with a new play. So.
And do you think that the hardest part for a lot of organizations, at least the larger ones, they have a hard time of kind of, starting those initiatives because they just don't quite know how to track it properly?
That's nailed it.
And so do you guys work with them on how to track that activity, track those conversations and things like that?
Yeah. I mean, what I'm trying to move all of our clients to is to stop tracking call and email activity, making that the like holy grail. Let me kind of like reverse a little bit. It's not that you don't track it. It's that it's not what you're focused on. You're focused on the first outcome, which is a meaningful conversation, which you can define as, they're trying to set up time to meet with me. Their secretary said that she's going to check their schedule. They're getting me to the right person. I had a conversation, an outcome with somebody that is going to lead to a meeting or qualified op. And if we can just start there, it kind of cleans up a lot of this.
Right.
We don't have to focus on, it's interesting. It's just like most activities that you can track in third-party platforms are almost all LinkedIn Sales Navigator related. The problem is every time you send a message with Sales Navigator, it looks weird. So people are incentivized to send poorer messages because it can be tracked versus sending one-to-one DMs to first degree connections, which has a much higher conversion rate. And so that's why I think this is organizations, we should track what we can track, but we don't try to track every single thing to the detriment of effectiveness. And I think that's it. It's the difference between efficiency and effectiveness. And we are so focused on, can we get every single thing, tracked and measured, as opposed to like, well, how effective? Like, let's just focus on being effective.
So, so to track the meaningful conversation, right, requires some manual entry into the CRM by the sales rep, which is, I think, it brings up another fear of a lot of organizations, right?
Sure. Yes. Like, God forbid they had to literally mark 4 activities a day. Yeah. Like, this is not, we're not talking about hundreds, right? You're already scraping their emails. You're already doing that other stuff. Like, they just have to go and mark change lead stage to X.
Yeah. So tell me, like, when what's kind of your first go-to when you're working with somebody and you're just going straight into increase their sales productivity?
Yeah. It's actually, candidly, it's not that difficult. Meaning, the issue that a lot of companies have is they don't quite understand. I learned this about 15 years ago for the first time, and then the data has just continued to reinforce it, that when you look at numbers in aggregate, they don't actually tell the whole story, right? It's when you pinch out and you zoom in, and that beautiful line that looks up and to the right is actually this nasty looking like up and down chart of every individual being different, right? And every team being different, and it's different between your small team or big team, right? Then it's, it's fairly similar. But I think that if I could just give people two metrics to track that will immediately, that they can go and peg to increase sales productivity. The first one is average age in stage. So what is the average time someone is spending at each step of the process? Okay. And what that tells you, and again, you measure that at the company level, the manager level, and the individual level, right? And there's a lot of different tools. Salesforce can do parts of this, or whatever CRM you use. You can use Insight Squared, there's a few other tools you can use. But what that helps me to understand is, look, where does Colin struggle in the sales process? Right? Like where his deals are going long versus Susan. So with Jake, look, for whatever reason, your time in trial is 2x longer than everybody else's. I'm going to work with you on the trial stage. Maybe there's some small tweaks. And if I can just do that, you all of a sudden become 20% more effective. Right? Jake, on the other hand, goes to my second metric, which is conversion percentage between each stage, at the macro, the team, and the individual level. Because that tells me, again, how deals are progressing, right? How many people started at step 1 and got to step 5. Yeah, and the other kind of concept that goes in, that is like a sister concept to this, percent conversion, is the idea that a good funnel looks more like a nail than a funnel. That you drive out as early as possible disqualified people. So then you're only spending time with people that are like the best customer fit. And I think that is an issue. The drop off that kills sales organization is the meeting drop off between meeting 2 and meeting 3. I cannot tell you how many sales leaders and CEOs I talk to. They get the first meeting, then they can usually get the second meeting, and then it falls off a cliff. And so you spend all this time chasing people. A good chunk of those people you should have disqualified after the first meeting. Yeah. And so that's where I would start as a sales leader or marketing leader. I look at the average age of, in each stage, and then I look at the conversion percentage. And that alone is it's easy then. Yeah. I can just go in and say, look, this is what we're going to work on here. And that's what we do as a consulting firm. It's just then you can probably make, better decisions. Once it hits a certain age, you can just kick it out. Like, hey, this is sitting too long in this stage. We either re-engage or kick it out, right? Sure. Yeah. I mean, we've been doing parts of that already, of just like, hey, this deal's going long. This is more about how do you get better in the long term? It's that Jake consistently has deals go long in the trial, not just this one deal, consistently. His average age and stage of stage 4 is 2x longer than everyone else over the last 2 quarters. You see what I'm saying? Like if you want to know how to increase productivity, you got to look for the bottlenecks in the process. Now, what if Jake's spending more in trial, but his close rates are higher? That tells part of the story. Right. It could be that, again, he's only putting people into trial that are highly qualified, and that we actually need. Everyone's trial should be longer, right? It's just a data point. It doesn't mean it's bad or good. It just tells me where to go to look. That's the key. Right. The data just tells me where to go look. Then I back it up. I said, okay, well, to your point, is that okay? Okay, it's 210. But his overall, okay, interesting. So Jake spends 2 times longer in trial, but his overall sales cycle is 10 days shorter. Okay, that's interesting. Let's how do we play with that? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like that is the data. If you don't have just that macro data about the individual stage conversions and time and stage, you're never going to be able to pinpoint the real issues. It's all going to be gut on where you think your sales team needs to get better. How many people are doing this when you get engaged with them? Less than 10% probably. Wow. And I mean, just talking about it, it sounds like it makes such a huge difference, like immediately, once you can start to collect enough data, right? That's right. Because look, we marketing is better at this, right? Marketing tends to kind of look at this stuff at the lead stage because it's just like they're almost hardwired to. Sales, nah, not so much. Sales is very gut driven, methodology driven. each person's their own special flower. The amount of variation that we allow in sales is ridiculous. There's an ideal way to move your customers through the journey based on your product and who you sell to. I promise you. There's an ideal way that these buyers typically buy, and it's step 1, 2, 4, 3, 4, 5. But for whatever reason, we think sales is truly like everyone's a special flower, and my God, if we give someone a script, then it must be that we're taking away their like civil liberties, and it's kind of bullshit. It's like, look, there's an ideal way to move customers through that we should be anchoring to and making micro adjustments based on the individual and the situation and the change management and climate within the customer org. But as a whole, there's just too much irregularity in most sales processes.
So if somebody's not tracking this type of data, which most aren't, is what it sounds like, how long does it take before they have enough data where you can actually start making some actionable decisions?
I mean, what's the law of law? Or I'm trying to go back to like my MBA days. Like, I think it's called like the law of large numbers or something like that. It's like once you get over like 30 something, like it starts to get like statistically relevant, depending on like the type of activity. Certainly, once you get over 100, you're fine. But just Google it. You know what I mean? Like I'm dangerous at stats, but not that dangerous. So for me, it's like you need enough at bats. But you'll start to see the trend, right? After 20 deals of analyzing, but for Jake, their trends will start to emerge. After 30, it'll become more clear. By 40, it's kind of obvious.
Right. All right. So talk to me about the type of distractions that you're seeing and how you guys work with folks to eliminate those.
Yeah, I mean, well, we can talk about meetings, right? I think meetings to me is one of the most one of the biggest time sucks for sales orgs. I was one of our clients.
We're talking about sales meetings, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, it doesn't have to just be sales meetings. As a CEO, one of the things that makes me sick is when I hear that I met with someone, they met with someone, they met with someone else, and then I met with that someone else too, all in the same week. I'm like, guys, and that's been happening for the last 3 weeks. I'm like, oh Jesus, like what are we doing, guys? So. I feel like sales leadership has got to do a better job of preparing for meetings to ensure that they're applicable for everyone, not just them. A meeting to check in on people's pipeline is ridiculous. Like you're having a one-on-one with a person, they're updating Salesforce or Dynamics or HubSpot or whatever. Yeah. Right. Why are you making them do a deal review every week? Yeah. It's old school behavior. It's run
the report, check the CRM.
Right. Come prepared and ask 2 questions to each individual because you did your homework. You wrote down the notes. You know what's happening because your book of business that, is your rep's book or your, manager's book or your director's, just kind of goes up and just down. But that to me is, I think, one of the biggest areas we can start to eliminate is that need for a true pipeline meeting as opposed to targeted question meeting. In our one-on-one, I was asking each person 1 to 2 targeted questions based on insights. And then we're spending more of our time coaching to the individual. So what I think we've gotten away from is too many of our meetings are about tactical deals. And this is in sales and in marketing is the same way. It's about tactical leads and not enough about skill development. We're not trying to build skills. We're trying to teach people how to close deals. And we're not worried about, hey, what Timmy really needs to work on is his ability to ask discovery questions. So spoon feeding Timmy the discovery questions on every deal, it's not helping. So you've got to have deal coaching meetings, skill development meetings, character development meetings. Like not enough leadership is focused on the holistic person versus the output. We're not focused, it's like as Stephen Covey would say, we're too focused on production and not production capacity. If you're always focused on the producing more widgets and you're not focused on increasing the production capacity of the individuals in your sales organization or marketing organization, it's a hamster wheel that you can never get off.
So less, pipeline check-in. Hey, what do you think it's going to close this month? Less of that and more focus on helping them in the areas from the data that you guys look at, right? Hey, you're spending too much in trial. We found that the rest of the organization is spending half as much time as you and having a higher close ratio. So let's work on your trial stage. more of that.
That's it, man. And it's just like, this isn't my gut. This isn't my opinion. The machine just said, this is what's happening. It doesn't mean it's good or bad. Let's inspect, and that's, I wonder if part of this is like, I really loved like chemistry. Right. And so I have like a very, I guess like scientific mind about a lot of things. I don't beat myself up when something fails. I don't get too high when something succeeds. It's all hypothesis testing. And okay, this is a data point. It's not good that it's long. It's not bad. Let me now inspect and understand what are some of the root causes here, and not jump to conclusions and just let the facts lay themselves out. And I feel like more leaders have to take that mindset as a part of this. They have to take that mindset of that beginner mind, that scientific mind about, same thing when you're coaching reps, you're asking them questions, you're doing this, you're not trying to make assumptions, you're trying to get to the heart of it. So yeah, I digress a little bit, but.
Now, I know you're really passionate about personal branding and helping, teams with their personal branding strategy. So tell me what type of things you work with them and kind of what you recommend and how to, somebody can get started that's not focusing on this.
Yeah. I mean, here's what I would say. Don't the word personal brand, I think, scares people. And so personal brand is like, oh man, I don't want to be an influencer or whatever. Like that sounds nervous or shouts my ego and people are going to make fun of me if I post about this. Don't think of it like personal brand. Think of it. I'm going to try to make like a very simple analogy that I think that is approachable for most people. As a marketer or salesperson or customer success, account management, it doesn't matter. Finance, accounting, operations engineer. We all want to be experts in our industry. We all want to be perceived as, hey, this guy knows what he's talking about, or this woman knows what she's talking about XYZ. And so think about it like that, all you're doing is, would you turn down a speaking event at a conference or at a local networking event?
Of course not. Right.
That's all posting on LinkedIn is. LinkedIn is a group of professionals that a post speaks to. Yeah. And it's no more than that. And I think if you can get in that mindset that like, look, there's other things, and I'll give you all the quick playbook, just like the things that you need to do. If you go back to my post, for those of you who are listening now, from May 13th, I gave kind of this in a little bit more detailed, but there's a couple of key elements. First is your profile. It needs to be like a kind of an interesting picture, but quasi-professional. The next is your summary. Your summary needs to talk about the outcomes, not that you're 125% to quote it. No, if I was a sales rep, I would never talk about how good of a seller I am. I would only talk about the outcomes that I drive for my customers. Right. So that's the profile piece. That most people can kind of get that. Change your headline to be, again, about the outcomes. I work with HR leaders to help to reduce employee churn by 4%. That's what I do. Now, my product is a human capital management system, right? Like, you see what I mean? So it's always about the outcomes. That's your profile. Step 2 is adding people. Most people's LinkedIn networks is made of current and previous coworkers. It's not good enough. So you got to, use LinkedIn Sales Navigator. You can build lists very easy of your target buyers and just start connecting with people. No, you do not need to send a personalized message request. I'm telling you, we've A/B tested this tens and tens of times. Yes, if you do a customized message, you can get a slightly higher conversion rate. Let's say it takes you even from 50 to 65% or 40 to 55%, which is, yes, that's significant. But I can connect blindly with 82 people in 12 minutes. 82 or 12, or that same 12 minutes, I could write 4 custom connection requests, right? Like I'm going to win every time. My network's going to be exponentially bigger than yours. So, and then the move is you unconnect request with the people that you want to connect with who didn't, and then you take the time to write the message. But don't do it out of the gate. It's just a waste of time, right? So you've got to build your network in your industry, right? It's the same thing as going to a network and handing out your business cards, right? Handing them out, same idea. I've never actually articulated it that way, but that's a really good way to articulate it. The third piece is you have to post content. Right. You can't reshare posts. You have to just have some original thought. Hey, I talked to a customer yesterday. Here are the top 3 things I heard about IoT and manufacturing post-COVID. Yeah. All right. Hey, if you're thinking about, go take a white paper from marketing. Don't just reshare. You have to have some level of original thought and play it safe. Just use customer insights. Just use things that your company's already producing and just steal from that until you find your own voice. So you don't need to overthink it, but you have to produce content. So when people come to your profile, they're like, wow, this guy actually knows what he's talking about. So that's the third component. And then the fourth component is how you engage. A couple of very basic plays on how you can engage is take a look at who likes your posts and comments. Are there any buyers in there? Cool. If there is, immediately DM them. Hey, I saw that you like my post, blah, blah, blah. It could be good to connect. Here's what we do. Let me know how this works, right? Mind the likes and comments of your executive team. Go see who's liking and commenting on your corporate page, right? So those are some really like easy ones that you can just do pretty quickly. Some of the other plays that you can do is, again, if you build a list in Sales Navigator, there's 2 tabs at the top of that saved list. One says change jobs in the last 90 days. Someone changing jobs in the last 90 days, we've seen across a lot of clients is a consistent good time to reach out. People in that first 90 days are kind of thinking about new ideas. So just use that to kind of say, hey, and don't do like, congrats on the new job, blah, blah, generic bullshit. Be like, hey, look, I saw some of your content. I did this. I know you're new, so you may be thinking about XYZ. Let me know if that's top of mind right now, and we can set up time in 2 weeks. So, that, and then the other tab that's at the top there is posted content in the last 30 days. So all you have to do is click that, and then you just go to their posts, and you're going to be shocked at how few executives get any comments on their posts. So I'm telling you right now, Colin, you comment on 2 posts, that executive knows who you are. Right. And so then once you've done that, over, God forbid, you wait 2 weeks to DM someone. Then when I DM you, you're like, oh yeah, that's that Jake Dunlap guy. And if I do it smart and thoughtful to where it doesn't feel now fake or you feel like cheap, of course you're taking that meeting.
And people need to know too, you don't need to be connected with that executive to comment on their content.
Yeah, totally don't. Right. Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
So that's the playbook, man.
Yeah. And then, so what about, talk about like what, some original thought. Yes. I think some people like, hey, do I need to post business things, personal things about me, mix both? Like, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, the advice is, who do you want your audience to be? Audiences are deliberate. Who do you want to appeal to? That's all that you got to ask yourself that question. And maybe it's like 60% this audience, 30% this audience, 10% this audience. For me, I've got, my audience is fairly straightforward. It's sales leaders, it's CEOs, and it's people in sales and marketing. So frontline people. That's my jam. Those are my people, right? Entrepreneurs maybe fall into that CEO bucket. I don't go too inspirational, but I mean, some of the posts definitely lean that way, but it's in those veins. So it's like, you're a sales and marketing leader, you're a CEO who cares about revenue, or you're an individual contributor or manager in a sales or marketing role. That's my jam. That's what I'm talking to. Yeah. Right. And so, I'm not posting about what I think the stock market's going to do tomorrow. I'm not posting about COVID. I'm not posting about Joe Biden or Donald Trump. I'm not posting about any of this shit, man. Yeah. That's not my world. It's not my lane. Stay in my lane. This is my lane. I'll venture into some leadership and some career development, but it's usually around that lens. You know what I mean?
So know your audience and craft your content around what you think is going to be valuable to them, is what it sounds like you're saying.
That's it.
Yeah. Now talk to me about, so when you're coaching people and you're telling them to send these DMs, what are you telling them to send? Are they going for a meeting right away? Are they trying to just, get to know them? Like, what's kind of the call to action on these DMs?
It's a good question. I mean, it depends on how strong the correlation is. Meaning, like, if the comment that they're liking or posting, or what you've seen isn't like a really relevant fit to what you do, then the first touch point's probably more soft. Right? It's more, and I highly suggest everyone, and this is on video, right? Like, people can see this.
Yeah.
See this? Yeah, cool. So if you guys go to LinkedIn's mobile app, I'm just going to show you something real quick here. You go to messages. You click on an individual. Okay, so you click on an individual message. Actually, here, let me try to make it a little brighter so everyone can see this. Okay, so you click on an individual message here. Okay, if you look in the right, you can see that little microphone button. Yeah. Right.
The voice message.
Do you have any interest or know someone that's looking? Exactly. I can drop a voicemail straight in there. Hey, so it's like, hey, what's going on, Joel? Appreciate it, man. Yeah, I mean, look, dude, feel free to connect us, and I'm happy to see if I can make something happen. Appreciate it, bro. Send.
Yeah.
Boom. So now just send a voicemail. So I would do something like that. I'd be like, hey, hey, John. And again, like this guy DM me, so I'm a little more casual. I'd probably be, if I was a sales rep, especially I'm, 39 now, I'm not, 24. I would be a little bit more maybe buttoned up than that. Not like overly stiff, but a little more buttoned up. And I would say, hey, Colin, hey, look, I've followed a couple of your posts, really enjoy the content. Look forward to, staying connected here. Thanks. That's it.
Yeah.
And then next week I see the right post, right? Then I cold call you. Hey, what's going on? Hey, Colin, look, I know we've connected a few times here. It's really great. Just a quick high level on what we do. I don't know if that's top of mind or not. I'll shoot you an email. Let me know. And if it makes sense to connect, cool. If not, we'll stay connected.
Yeah.
So again, you got to, the key, here's what I just don't get logically. This is one that makes no sense to me. It usually takes someone 2 to 3 weeks to get the meeting anyway, right? You look at the data out there. It says it takes 7 to 10 touch points. Okay. By that point, you're at week 2 or 3 anyway. Okay. And your conversion rates are like 4%, 7%.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the exact same amount of time, but but you're not hammering people with emails and calls. You're doing some more EQ stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's EQ, not, did I hit send all correct or insert this form field? That's IQ, and I feel like, and the conversion rates are bonkers, man. Like they're silly. And so I feel like we're just so, it's tough to let go of the past. Right. And like you said earlier, which is spot on, the things that you can track. I can't track. There's nothing in LinkedIn that will allow you to sync that Jake sent a voicemail to Joel there's nothing. And because of that, in sales, and again, in a sales leader's mind, that doesn't exist. They would rather send an in-mail that they can track.
Yeah.
Guys, wake up. Wake up.
And an in-mail is kind of like, in my opinion, it's the equivalent of like getting a company email that's all fancy in HTML rather than a personal email, right? So it's kind of like the in-mail, it feels very spammy. They're ignored. And I mean, and when you get the in-mail, you even have the option to like just easily tap and say, no, not interested. Like that's how easy it is to reject the in-mail.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the things that aren't trackable work if you do them, right? So do you think that, and it's got to start from the top, right? Do you think that sales reps and sales leaders are, struggling with having their team go all in on these because they can't track them, and that's what the leadership wants? So how difficult is it when you go into an organization that's still so stuck on doing things the old way to break through that and get them to buy into this process?
Yeah, it's walk, crawl, or crawl, walk, run. Step 1, let's work on the profile. Most people are fine with that.
Yeah.
Step 2, let's get to adding people. Most people can get down with that.
Yeah.
Step 3 is let's just post a couple of pieces of content. We white label. We have our own technology that we white label that can track views, impressions, comments, likes, and aggregates this all across your team or at individual. Yeah. And we start to show them the results. Look at what happened. You have a 200% increase month over month in engagement, or week over week. Okay, let's put out another post. Okay, now let's just do a DM. Let's do the DM this way. So over the course of these clients, our clients aren't, this isn't taking months. This is taking like 2 to 3 weeks to see results. Yeah. So and then look, once you get a post that does well, my job's done. That dopamine starts to kick in. Mm-hmm. As soon as I can get you I can get you in the mode, it's over. You don't need me anymore. So our job is to get people to that point, and then the algorithm takes care of, like LinkedIn right now is so green field that most people just don't realize that,
So tell me a little bit more about that. Explain to people what that means.
It means that I think it's like less than 2% of people on LinkedIn post.
Right.
So the noise ratio is actually really low. So, when you post and not very many people are posting, it's amazing. Yeah.
All right, Jake, thanks so much. It's been a blast. It's a lot of great information for people there. Before we let you go, just tell us where people can find you online and find out more about Skaled.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, obviously LinkedIn, it's just Jake Dunlap. So you can find me, I talked, like I said, I walk through like some of the topics that I hit on. So if you're interested in that, definitely follow me there. Pretty active on Instagram, Jake _Dunlap _. and Twitter too. So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty active across social channels. And then, look, you can always hit us up at Skaled, SKALED.com. If you go to skaled.com/digital presence, you can learn a little bit more about some of the LinkedIn stuff that we're working on. But yeah, man, look, if you follow my content, you're going to get a lot of stuff for free, right? Yeah. We definitely, give away all of our best ideas. So, start there, right? Start there, get educated, get a foundation, just put yourself out there, right? And you're going to be surprised. Don't reshare posts, have a thought. LinkedIn is safe, dude. There's so few trolls, man. Dude, nobody trolls posts. It doesn't happen, right? Let me tell you, a LinkedIn troll says, I disagree, right? Like as opposed to Instagram, it's like, you suck.
You're fake. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've got the first time we promoted an Instagram ad, this 16-year-old kid just commented lame. And it's like burned into my psyche. And I'm like, oh God. It was like 5 a.m. I was like, oh, we got a comment.
My favorite is when you run ads and your competitor drops their link in there.
Yeah, they should. That's smart. Dude, I do that sometimes. My team gives me shit because, like, let's say if I'm on LinkedIn and I don't do it on competitors' ads. It's more like if I see a software that's advertising, nobody comments on these ads on LinkedIn. So I'm like, all right, I'll throw a comment on there and give a shameless plug. We'll see what happens. I don't know if it's ever converted or not. But
can't track it, so you don't know.
Dude, hey, you never know, man. It's all good.
Hey, man, thanks so much. If you're listening to the podcast, please subscribe, share with your friends, and we're listening for your feedback. The show is all about you.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks. I appreciate you having me, man.
Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Monster Chats, presented by Monster VoIP, where we share the tools, methods, and best practices that business leaders use to build new connections, strengthen relationships, and impact sales in organizations of all shapes and sizes. If you have any questions from today's show and want to reach us directly, please text your question to 424-378-6966.